So our goal and what we're aiming for is to have a photo upload widget that we can enable when a user clicks on a button to add a photo. And we also want to add some buttons underneath these photos so the user can choose one to select as their main photo or delete a photo. But we only want that functionality to be enabled for the currently logged in user when they're viewing their own profile page. So let's take a look at what we can do to achieve that. And inside our profile store, what we want to do is we want to get a property to tell us if the profile we're looking at is the currently logged on user. And what we can use when we've already got the data to achieve this, when we log in inside our user store, and let's just open our user store, what we have is a user observable, and this is going to be set when our user's logged in. And when we're loading our profile, then we're setting our profile inside here. So what we want to do, and the two pieces of data we've got are the profile username and the user.username. And if those two pieces of data match, then we know that we're looking at the currently logged in user's profile. So this is a good opportunity to use a computed property from MobX. So let's just bring in computed. And what we'll do, we'll add a computed property here, and we'll say get, and we'll call it isCurrentUser. And what we want to do, first of all, is we want to check to see if we have a user in our user store. So we'll say if the list.rootstore.userstore.user and we have list.profile, because both of these potentially could be null, then what we'll do is we'll return this.rootstore.userstore.user.username, and if it's equal to this.profile.username. And this will return true if those two values match. And what we also want to do is give an else condition, because we should always return something in the case of a computed property, and in the else condition we'll just return false. And then we can make use of this in our profile photos page. So we're already bringing in the profile store. So what we can also bring in is the isCurrentUser. And what we want to do is add some local state inside here to trigger a toggle for an add photo mode and the ability to set the add photo mode. So what we'll do is we'll say const and add the array, and we'll say add photo mode and set add photo mode equals use state, and we'll give it an initial value of false. And what we want to do is we want to add a button inside the header of the tab pane. So we'll set the header and float this to the left. So we'll say header is floated to the left, and then below this we'll add a button, and we'll float this to the right, and we'll make it a basic button, and the content of this we'll set to one of two things. We'll check to see if the add photo mode is set to true, and if it is, we'll give the option for the users to cancel this, and if it's not, then we'll give them the option to add photo, which is going to trigger our add photo mode. But we only want to display this if the user is, or the profile page we're looking at is for the logged in user. So we'll use the isCurrentUser $&, and then close it off after our button. And if we go and take a look at how this is looking and click on photos, then because of the floats it kind of shifts everything all over the place, and that's not quite what we're looking for. We do see our button though, so let's just check to make sure the small piece of functionality that we've added to check to see if the current user is working. So I'll just go back to activities and I'll click on Jane, and we should find when we click on the photos we don't see the add photo button, so that's fine. And I'll go back to Bob, and what we want to do is adjust this so that we don't have our photos pushed up in line with our headers, and that's all down to using floats inside Semantic UI. And what I've found the best way to resolve this is just to use the grid system to manage this. And what we'll do, we'll just add a grid and make sure we get this in from Semantic UI. And then inside here we'll add a grid.column, and we'll make its width equal to 16. And then we'll take the contents of our header and our button, and I'll cut these and paste this inside here. And what we'll do is add another grid column below this one. And we'll set this one's width to 16 as well. And inside here we'll cut our card group and just paste it inside here and just reformat. And what we'll find is that there's a bit too much spacing in between the photos and the header. So when we use the grid columns, they come with some padding automatically. So let's just remove the padding from the first grid column, and we'll give it some style and say padding bottom and set that to 0. And just go back and check again and check the photos, and that looks a bit better. So what we also need is the conditional or the content for what happens when we do click the add photo button. So let's go back, and what we'll do inside our second grid column here, we'll check to see if the add photo mode is enabled, and we'll add a ternary here, and inside here we'll just add a paragraph and say photo widget will go here, and then after the colon we'll paste in, or we'll cut our card group again and paste it inside here and just reformat again. And underneath the image what we also want is some buttons that are going to be displayed if we are again on the current user's profile page. So once again I'll use the isCurrentUser, and inside here what we want is a button group. So I'll add a button and .group, and we'll set this to be fluid so it takes up the entire space underneath the image, and we'll give it widths equal to 2. So we'll have two buttons here and they'll both take up the same amount of space. And then we'll add a button, and we'll make it basic and a positive button, and we'll set the content equal to main, and I'll just copy this down, and we'll have a negative button, and we'll set this content, or we'll just use an icon for this one, and we'll set it equal to trash for deleting. And just reformat this, and let's go and see how this looks. And if I click on the photos, then we can see that we've got the buttons underneath the images, and that's fine. And if I click on add photo, nothing happens because I didn't add the onClick handler to the button to add the photo. So what we need to do is add the onClick equal to, and we'll add an arrow function, and then we'll say set add photo mode, and we'll set this to the opposite of whatever the add photo mode is currently set to, so it operates as a toggle. And let's go back and check this is working. So I'll click on the photos again, click on add photo, and we can see our photo widget will go here, and click on cancel, and that's absolutely fine. And just to be super sure, let's go and click on Tom's profile and make sure that we can't see the buttons when looking at Tom's profile, and we can't, so that's what we're aiming for here. What we need to do next is take a look at the functionality and the ability to actually upload a photo to our server. So what we'll work on next is our photo widgets, and we'll start work on that next.